Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video I'll be talking about compliance. This is something really important in the field of cybersecurity that everyone should know. I know many people talk about the command prompts and Linux and all those technical aspects, but this is also something which is really important, and that brings me to compliance. So what basically is compliance? What compliance basically means in cybersecurity? Compliance is basically it's at the simplest. It's basically the act of complying with a command or a set of rules or guidelines, and when you have actually followed those rules and guidelines, then that basically means you are compliant. So in order to be compliant in cybersecurity, what you have to do, what is the whole process, and how when company functions and how they are able to get contracts with the other companies. So all this comes under compliance. So what basically happens is, in a whole nutshell, in order to be compliant, your company will decide that there are certain types of compliance out there related to industry standards. Depends what your company is working on, what type of company you're working for, and what's the goal of your company. So there are different types of compliance. For example, there's Nist, which is National Institute of Standards and Technology. There's CIS controls, which is Center for Internet Security Controls. There's Hipaa for healthcare industries, and it's known as Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And you must have heard these terms. Also CMMC, which is Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. So you must have heard these terms. When you're talking about companies, or when you're working with the company and they're like, hey, we're NIST 800-171 compliant. Hey, we are CMMC compliant, we are CMMC level 5 compliant, or CMMC level 3 compliant. So what basically this means? This basically means that these are the types of industry compliance standards that the government has set, and there are different types of compliance. Depends what type of industry you're working for. So in order to be compliant, you need to follow these set of guidelines. And if you're working in a healthcare industry, if your company is if it's a healthcare company, then they need to be Hipaa compliant. And Hipaa compliant basically talks about protecting your health records and all of their bunch of stuff. So if you're Hipaa compliant, then you can basically go to your contractors or other companies and you can be like, hey, my company is Hipaa compliant and we can take care of whatever, we can work with you because the security in our company is Hipaa compliant. That basically means that, okay, Hipaa compliance talks about set of guidelines and security, how it should be when it comes to healthcare data, and your company is doing that. You're compliant with that, and once you're compliant, you basically get a certification, and there needs to be an audit done. Now, what is an audit? Audit is basically an assessment when a third-party contractor or a government official comes to your company and basically checks everything. Okay, if you want to be Hipaa compliant, they're gonna check each and every rules and regulations and set of guidelines which are in the Hipaa document. And if your company gets ticked off, and if you are compliant with all those guidelines, then at the end you will get a certification that, okay, you were Hipaa compliant, your company is Hipaa compliant. And then you can go to other companies and can be like, hey, our company is Hipaa compliant, so you can basically work with us. You can have a bunch of contracts with other companies, and that's gonna help your company grow eventually. So this is something which is really important when it comes to cybersecurity. This aspect also is gonna help you in managing stuff if you're in the security department of your company, and it will help you to manage everything, be compliant with everything, and also help your company in order to reach that level of security in whatever they want to do, whatever their goal is according to that, and follow those set of compliance guidelines, be compliant, and then able to get contracts from other companies and work with other companies and just grow in general with the company. So how does this basically works, and what other types of compliance are out there? So this basically helps in managing the whole security posture of the company, and the most common I would say out there is NIST 800-171, which is National Institute of Standards and Technology. 800-171 is a document. So this is a non-federal compliance. So what it basically talks about is, it talks about how there should be security in the company. How should be your passwords in the company, how many times a user can log in, and how many times if a user logs in with the wrong password, then after 3 or 4 or whatever, how many login attempts the user will be logged out. So this type of stuff, if you're storing your data, how your data should be stored in the company, what type of encryption should be used. So it goes into really detailed documentation, and you have to follow it in order to be Nist 800-171 compliant. So I would highly recommend you guys to go on like Google or whatever and download the Nist 800-171 document and just read through the guidelines. Just read through the guidelines. That will help you to understand how everything works in a security point of view in the corporate world, and how each and every company, how the security department usually goes in the company, and what it basically needs to be compliant, and to achieve those guidelines, what actions you can do and how you can achieve that. So that is also really important, and if you will have experience in that, it's going to help you tremendously. So please, I highly recommend look into that, go through each and everything, go through the whole document, read all the guidelines, and it will help you understand how everything works. There's also 802.1x. So when I was giving my security exam, there was a bunch of articles, a bunch of paragraphs which were talking about 802.1x, Nist 800, and I had no idea what they are. So basically, I told you guys what Nist 800-171 means. When it comes to 802.1x, it's a set of standard guidelines for networking access control, how networking should be in your company. 802.1x talks about networking access control. That's it. That's all you have to know. And if you look at the documentation of 802.1x, it talks about how networking should be in your company, what are the basic things you should be using, what are like the type of protocols networking protocols you should be using in your company, stuff like that. So if you're gonna be talking about, if you want to be Nist 800-171 compliant, then you need to, so 802.1x comes under Nist 800-171. If you want to be Nist 800 compliant, then you also need to be 802.1x. You need to take 802.1x into consideration. So that's how the whole process goes, and that's why I highly recommend you guys to just go out there, look what types of compliance there are, and when it comes to Hipaa, what actually Hipaa is, read the document, and how you can be compliant if you're working with a company and they need to be Hipaa compliant, or they need to be CMMC compliant, or if a company needs to work with the government, then how you can work with the government. If you want to work with the government, then you have to be CMMC compliant, which is Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, and it talks about how many levels are there. There are 5 levels. You have to be at minimum level 3 in order to be CMMC compliant. After that, only you can talk to the other companies or basically the government. Only after that, the government will work with your company. If you're not CMMC compliant, the government is not gonna work with you. So this basically means like, hey, like look, like we're CMMC compliant, like my company CMMC compliant, like you can work with us, like we can take care of everything, like you don't have to worry about any security data leaks, like we're really good when it comes to security, kind of like that. It just helps your company stand out. It's like a medal given to your company when it comes to security, if that makes sense. And most of these documents, they talk about 2 things, CUI and FCI. What is CUI and what is FCI? So CUI is controlled unclassified information, which means it's non-federal. It's a non-federal information, and it falls under Nist 800-171. So CUI basically talks, CUI is whatever documents, whatever presentations, basically all documents in your company. They are whatever non-federal documents are there in your company. They will fall under CUI. And the second aspect is FCI, which is federal contract information. If you're working with the government, and you will be having highly confidential documents, which is going to be federal documents. Those federal documents are FCI. So these are the labels that these guidelines talk about, and you need to be very clear when it comes to what is CY and FCI. Because first of all, you need to figure out what type of document comes under CY and what type of document comes under FCI. Once you know what type of document comes under CY and FCI, then you work on the guidelines. Then you work on your access control list. Like, okay, CY should only be accessed to these many employees. FCI can only be accessed by the top managers in the company, or the CEO or the CTO of the company, and no one else. So that's really, really important. That's why I highly recommend go on Google, learn about compliance. What does it actually mean to be compliant? How you can achieve that, and what FCI is, what CUI is, dive deep. But in a nutshell, this is what all it means, and this is what it means to be compliant. This is what it means to be compliant if you are following a certain set of guidelines, for example, Nist, CMMC, GDPR, DFARS, whatever. These are just names of the types of compliance systems and guidelines that are out there. So that's it for today's video. I hope it was really informative for you, and I've seen many people don't talk about it, and this is really, really important. So that's why I'm telling you all this, and I hope you guys like my video. I try to make this video really, really short, and yeah, if you have any reviews or any suggestions or that you guys can give me, feel free to comment on the comment section down below. Also, if there are any certain type of videos you guys want me to make, I can definitely do that for you guys also. So do that on the comment section down below, and subscribe to my channel, give thumbs up, share my video, whatever. And yeah, hopefully this makes a whole lot easier for you guys, and it will help you to move forward if you want to get into the cybersecurity field. I hope you have a good one, and I hope you're having a great time.